Welcome to Scrolling to Death. Today I have Chris Kaspar. Is that how you say it? I should have asked you that first. Okay. Today I have Chris Kaspar with me, the CEO and founder of Techless, a tech startup that created the Wisephone, which I'm excited to talk about today. Welcome, Chris.
Awesome. Glad to be here. Love what you're about. Excited about this conversation.
Thank you. Me too. And I just can't wait to hear more about the Wisephone. I have one with me today. I have not started using it yet. I will tell you about my plan. But to back up, this podcast is mostly about kids' online safety and how to protect our kids online. And a lot of that has to do with what devices we give them. And so I talk a lot about kid-safe devices rather than going with an iPhone where kids can get access to things even if you try to restrict them. It's been about a year and a half-ish of talking about this. And I, over time, realized how important it is for the adults to take a look at how we're using our devices. I've been thinking a lot about what about adults? Aren't we just as addicted and distracted by our devices as the kids that I talk about all the time? So, I want you to take the time now to tell us about the Wisephone, why you developed this as a pure and simple phone for intentional people, is what you guys say. So tell me about the journey and why you created this solution.
Yeah, happy to dive in. And I just want to confirm your point on the right string
Okay.
to challenge parents to take a closer look
Yeah.
at
Okay.
what's
Good.
going on. I've been down this road, and that's where you need to go. So it's
Okay.
a harder
Good.
conversation. It's a whole lot easier to say, hey, this is for my kids. It's a
Yeah.
whole lot harder to own it yourself, but that's
I
the
know. I
right.
had to work up the confidence to be able to be like, hey guys, what about us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can dive into that too. But yeah, the
Hmm.
backstory for Wisephone, actually, it's funny that you led with that comment, because the backstory for Wisephone is that I had 10 and 13-year-old girls, and I said, and they were foster daughters, and the caseworkers dropped them off and said, don't let them near anything that looks like a smartphone. They've done really dark things with them. And we asked them a few more details, and we're like, yes, that is off the table. We can't do that.
Okay.
And we faced that parenting conundrum that
Hmm.
all parents face, that tech tension battle. What do we do? And this
Yeah.
6 years ago, pre any other real kid phones out there.
No,
Uh,
right.
and we figured out that Amazon Alexa was a good device that we could give to them. They could play with it. We could trust them with it, but it was a non-visual interface to the internet. And that boundaries on the device actually really helped our relationship with them, because we didn't have to argue over anything. We just let them have it. And that
Mm.
device, it deepened our relationship with them. The fact that we could let them fully be trusted with it. But that was the start of the iceberg, but very quickly. I'm talking, I started working on making a kid-safe phone because there was no other option out there in the market at the time. And very quickly, it just shifted to a sophisticated adult device, because that's actually the deeper root of the challenge. And so when
Hmm.
we made Wisephone, it went from being a kid-safe phone for kids to, wait, this is a sophisticated, healthy phone for adults that is also kid safe. And we
Right.
hired a UX UI designer, one of the best in the world, Josh Benko. He was the guy that created the Apple iPad, and we made a very clean, cool, minimalist phone and 75% of our sales are to adults. But
Hmm.
we went through that journey that you're going on right now, though.
Okay. Yeah. Thinking about, I need something for kids, but then being like, what about parents? Because, not only are they watching us use these devices all the time and unable to put them down, but parents are being harmed in ways as well. I talk about the addictiveness of the devices and how do we break through this? Because parents, so there's so much on my smartphone. So here's my iPhone. There's so much on here that I don't need, right? But there's things that I need to do for work that are not available, say, on the Wisephone, because it is more of an addictive platform. Let's talk about Instagram, for example. So when I talk about I'm going to do a test for 30 days of using the Wisephone, and I'm expecting to feel great after. But how do I balance that when I need access to certain things that maybe aren't good for me, but only sometimes?
Yeah. And that's actually the crux of the question that we're asking ourselves for other people as we're building continued features. Well, we start out
Hmm.
with very sparse. Wisephone 2 is much more capable, and we're
Hmm.
continuing to get closer to that line of what we're calling healthy tech, but we're
Yeah.
taking a conservative approach, slowly releasing features as we understand them, slowly releasing third-party tools as we understand them, and the
Hmm.
boundaries around it. But high level, I would just throw this out there. You have to start with systematic change of the system. Like, so this came back to the foster kids. We had to introduce a different device because they needed a complete reboot of the system. And I
Mhm.
had a history of working in a Fitch family business, 500 people. I was in charge of bringing in lean, which is a system of thinking, a way of thinking for manufacturers, and it involved a whole new paradigm shift. And so it is pretty obvious that the smartphone paradigm does not serve us, no matter what. You can play the little games and life hack and turn it into grayscale mode at 10 PM and all the stuff. No matter what, there's a gap between what people want to accomplish with their smartphones and what they're getting served up. And so it's you gotta do a systematic change. And then so I would propose, hey, switch to a Wisephone and then figure out the gap of how to work your way into the challenges. Because I'm running the
Yeah.
company and
Yeah.
I'm using a Wisephone. Like, this is my device.
Mhm.
And there's systems you gotta invent and create, and they're a little bit different, and there is some slight inconvenience associated with it. And we
Sure.
could talk about inconvenience and how that's a good thing, not a bad thing, but
Yeah.
that
Right.
that's the paradigm shift that has to be made.
Yeah, because everything shouldn't be super, like, that easy, right? Like, life isn't easy.
No, I mean, people understand health food, like, to eat healthy, you
Mhm.
have to pay more for food than McDonald's, you have to cook, you have to, like,
Right.
there's inconvenience associated with putting good nutritious things into your body, and if you
Mhm.
don't, that's fine, there's a cost associated with it over the course of your life. It's the
Yeah.
exact same thing when it comes to our mental health, spiritual health, whatever, when we're using technological devices. There's
Mhm.
inconvenience costs with not being able to wake up and check your phone and look at it and plug in Instagram right at in the morning,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
health benefits over the course of time, mental health, etcetera, far outweigh the cost. But it's just a
Mhm.
new way of thinking that so many people are like, but I'm used to eating junk food. I need to,
Yeah.
how can I keep eating junk food? And I'm saying, no, you can't eat junk food. Like, there's a different way
Yeah.
of thinking here.
And it feels bad. Like, I've realized over time that opening up Instagram the second I wake up makes me feel very stressed. And so I just stopped doing that, but not 100% of the time. And I'm not great. So giving yourself, taking away that option to even do that is really interesting.
Yeah.
And,
I
it's,
mean, just a very
yeah.
simple boundary that I found that works for myself. I run
Hmm.
everything on my computer. I have to
Yeah.
go to my computer, open it up, and now I don't do social media, but I do email. I do all the
Hmm.
things that I need to do. That simple little physical boundary, barrier,
Yeah.
inconvenience hurdle is
Yeah.
so much better than having this thing in your pocket that's bugging you constantly. I have to go to
Mhm.
it instead of it bugging me. That's just a massive paradigm shift between those two differences. So
So what do you say to people that are like, I have to be on my email I have to be accessible all the time for work. And I do move about the world. Like, I'm not always sitting at my computer. So what do you say to them
yeah,
regarding
that's
that?
the number one excuse I
Right.
hear.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say, first of all, like, is that actually good for you? Do you owe your employer 24/7, or should you
Mhm.
time block and your employer has availability from 9 to 6 and 8 to 10 PM? I work from 8 to 10 PM all the time.
Mhm.
Like, should you time block that and actually have moments where your employer cannot reach you? And if it really is a hard no, and that's not
Mhm.
possible, then, like, hey, do I open my computer and check it so often? But I think so many people actually use that as a justification.
Mhm.
It's the easy way, it's the way that people think, but I reject the notion that you should be available to your employer, to your
Mhm.
family, like,
Yeah.
even your mom shouldn't be able to call you 24/7, like,
Right.
unless there's emergencies. Like, that's an
Yeah.
assumption of today's hyper-connected world that I don't think is healthy for us, so
How stressful is it when you're out on the go? Like, if I wanna run out and go get a iced latte, right? And I'm like, see an email that I know I can't really answer appropriately on my phone because it's annoying and I need to maybe hyperlink some things. And so then I'm thinking about it for the 20 minutes that I'm gone, and I'm more stressed than I need to be when I could have just seen that and addressed it in real time when I sat back down at my computer.
yep. So,
So,
those spaces, a white space, that's
yeah.
actually the Techless logo. It's a bunch of mess, and there's a circle, and in the middle of the circle, there's nothing.
Mm.
That's representing, "Hey, there should be moments in life of white space." So
Mhm. Yeah. What is Moments Between Moments? That's Harrison Haynes, who is a grooming survivor, and he's writing a book called Moments Between Moments, and he's used a light phone for a while and is doing like a test about that. But I should talk to him about the Wise phone. What do we know? Is there any stats around anxiety? Because I know that for kids, this screen-based childhood has really has played a part in increasing anxiety rates in children. Are we seeing that adults are overall more anxious or stressed?
Yeah.
since we've sort of lived with our phones on us all the time.
Yeah, I don't know the exact statistics around
Sure.
anxiety. I'm confident to say that we are the least mentally healthy
Mm.
including adults,
Yeah.
status in the last 400 years. Like, we are at
Mhm.
the peak of terrible.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that is tied to digital
Mhm.
distraction, the whole digital world that we live in.
Yeah.
And I can say that I am confident. 60, there's a Deloitte study. 66% of Americans, particularly, want to cut back from their smartphones and
Mhm.
can't. Like, that is statistically, like, people aspire for something different than what we're doing, and we're
Mm.
hooked.
And I wanna say can't isn't the right word, like, it's won't, right?
I think there are systems. I mean, like, I at the heart of what we've done with Wisephone is it's not different technological innovation. We've actually not innovated much. We have extreme design principle innovation.
Mhm.
We think very differently about how we do it, and I would say it's not won't, it is can't, because big tech puts so many weird, tiny little
Mm.
things that work or don't work or are designed to suck you in, and so we are slaves to the platforms by design, and it's a
Mhm.
little bit of, "No, I can't."
Yeah. I'm
If you're on the platform.
Yeah, and I'm gonna document my 30 days with some video content, of using the Wise Phone, and there's gonna be some things that I'm anticipating, like,
Yeah.
I do a lot of airdropping of content back and forth from my Mac to my iPhone, and so things like that are gonna require more workarounds, and like you said, like, having to work a little bit harder is not a bad thing, but talk to me about the Wise Phone a little bit more, like, what does it have and what does it not compared to, like, a normal smartphone, like an iPhone?
Yeah, I'll show you my wife's phone. I
Okay.
have, calling, texting, messages, camera, settings, maps. We have our set of, like, core 8 apps. They're like the basics that everybody uses, every phone has,
Mhm.
except for some older, I don't know, there's flip phones and stuff like that that don't even
Mhm.
meet those requirements, so it's
Yeah.
a standard smartphone hardware. We use
Mhm.
Samsung hardware, because we innovate on software and design principles, and
Mhm.
and then we recently introduced something called the Techless tool drawer, where we allow third-party tools, so
Mhm.
things that you would need that are very practical. So Uber, medical tools, things that don't suck you in, and we
Mhm.
have clear principles around that. So we do not ever allow explicit content.
Mhm.
We don't allow anything that could be addicting or distracting, no social media, and no what I call solo media, where I can sit there on a screen and be focused on this for time. That's
Yeah.
solo media. And
Okay.
there's some things that are on the borderline. Like, I had a good friend of mine who's using a Wise phone. He's like, "Dude, I get so sucked into the weather app." We're like, "Okay, like,
Oh, okay.
what?" Like, if you're gonna
Yeah.
spend an hour on the weather app, that's on you.
Then it's probably
Um
good you don't have a game on there because you would be really
Exactly,
sucked into the game.
because honestly, what happens is no matter what, we create a container and people fill it. Whatever the
Mhm.
edges of that container are, people fill it, and you've seen this with Facebook. Whatever the edge of explicit content
Mhm.
they'll allow, that's
Yeah.
where all the content gets created, the bikini-clad pics. It's like, where's the
Mm.
line? That's the stuff that people hone in on. So
Yeah.
we're very carefully releasing third-party tools to do that. I mean, at one point, we had 2,000 in queue to review, and
Mhm.
we've released, 150, 200 or so to date.
Okay.
And we've rejected a lot of them. And as time goes on, we have additional protections and filters where we could allow more inter-app hooks, things like that. But you can see where we're going and the principles
Mhm.
driving it. So,
Right, so people can request apps, right? And then you
yes.
review them and either approve or disapprove them.
Yeah.
So,
We have a combination of AI, code
okay.
audits, human viewing, running through
Mhm.
principles. Like, it's a fairly rigorous review process. And even then,
Okay.
the apps that come out aren't 10 out of 10 perfect. We find some random loophole. We either block it or we have pulled a couple apps because they're just too atrocious. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah.
What's an example of one of those that you thought was maybe okay and you had to pull it?
The weirdest loophole is some of these companies insist on their own in-app browsers, and, like, the weird things in the terms of service. They click on it and there's some random social media link, and so we had to get a teenager who's sitting here tweeting, and we're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-oh.
he was spent hours clicking on every button he could on the whole phone and finding this tiny little weird workaround. So that's the kind of
Right.
stuff that we're like, where we're working on. And then there's weird edge case scenarios, Spotify album artwork. We're not a fan of some of the stuff out there. Okay, we're working on
Yeah.
a solution right now to where we can, like, shut it off, stuff like
Mhm.
that. So,
Yeah, and Spotify has, like, Pornhub has an account on Spotify,
yeah,
right? So you can see and hear pornography.
yeah.
So when it comes to certain apps like that that may have some good stuff but some bad stuff, are you able to, like, block the bad stuff or do you just say no?
Right now, we're pretty tight on what we allow. So
Okay.
we are doing more app-based regulation. As
Mhm.
time goes on, we have a filter, it's in beta, we're working on it, that's working pretty dang well,
Okay.
where we have on-screen detection of explicit content and
Yeah,
text,
heard
to where
about
we
that.
can loosen our app curation a little bit once we have those levels of control.
So is there a web browser? No.
No browser, no.
Okay, no
Yeah.
browser.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
would say right now, I would not count on Wisephone for your particular your level setting expectations, your work duties.
Mhm.
Like, maybe we have a couple or not, but like, hey, you're going 30 days with Wisephone, like you need your computer,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
currently the app collection.
Okay. Okay. Great. So, and social media right now, like 99.9% is super, super unsafe. I am taking lots of calls and interviews with really responsible, reliable people who have spent a decade creating a safer social media platform that just prioritizes only good content, doesn't connect predators to children, and all those things.
Yeah.
So, is that ever in the timeline? If it is safer, are we like, if it's social media and you're connecting strangers together, it's a no, or that it can potentially become addictive?
Yeah, so we have a part of our rating criteria, we have a fairly robust, I would say, levels of like,
Mhm.
how do we rate these things? And one of the levels, we do have bonus points in this sense in our system allocating for healthier social media companies. And we're rating apps, and then there's a
Mhm.
cutoff and below that. So as of right now, they're not on the radar. They could possibly if you get best in practice, but some of these are like, here's an example of like best case social media would be one that connects real life people in person, face to face, micro communities, and
Mhm.
messaging for that. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm a troop leader for a Girl Scouts group because I have 4 daughters, and
Mhm.
like, if there's some social media app that gets us all on the same page and that's it, and that's the extent of it, like that maybe could be on the radar. And they're
Mhm.
following all the other best practices that none of the other big platforms follow, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that's probably the tip of the spear. When you start talking content, then that starts dropping off our cliff here,
Okay.
because
Sure.
content is just such a hairy, hairy deal.
Yeah, and it may even be the thing is with these apps is they change a lot with the updates, and so it may be considered safe now, but then they may be adding things like,
Yeah.
especially these social media apps are adding more and more addictive functionality.
Our ratings are dynamic, so we can
Okay.
actually both
Oh,
communicate to
good.
those developers that, "Hey, what you're doing isn't good," and if they respond positively, it's great, or vice
Yeah.
versa. If they backslide, we start being punitive towards them, and we will and can share that score and what's going on with them in the future, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Amazing. You mentioned you have 4 daughters. You also have 2 sons. So you have 6
Mhm.
kids?
Yep, number
Okay.
6 was
Okay.
born a couple weeks ago.
Oh my god, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. How old is your oldest one?
8, so we 8 and
8
under.
to newborn. Jeez. Okay. My eldest is 9, so we're in the same boat.
Uh-huh.
They're younger, but how do you manage their use of tech so far? Like knowing what you know about how addictive like these platforms can be.
Yeah, I mean, just the classic rules of, hey, you don't have I mean, they don't have any devices at all. They
Yeah.
can't touch our devices unless we give it to them. We actually have started letting them do brain gigs where they can earn money by doing projects for us of things that I would possibly hire someone else to do, like
Okay.
make photo books and stuff like that, that like
Yeah.
super saves me 4 hours, and they
Mhm.
love to make some money.
Yeah.
So we've been
That's fun.
allowing them to do some practical tools. I mean, we watch a movie, Little House on the Prairie, once a week type of thing, and so
Mhm.
that's about the extent of their screen time,
Okay.
so
Beautiful.
pretty minimal.
I appreciate you just saying, they don't have devices. I think, and neither do my kids, but I think for the past decade or so, it's just become normal. Like your kid gets a tablet at some point and then they get to use it at home and it's educational and it's fun and you put limits on it. But that has become a huge problem. One, with this amount of screen time and how that's affecting them, but how poor the content is that they're actually viewing, right?
And I would just say, and I actually spoke, I live in a small town, 2,000 people. I
Hmm.
spoke at the school board just a few weeks ago talking
Okay.
about this exact thing, and they were bringing forth they made a proposal to bring tablets to kindergarten through 3rd grade, and it's gonna cost a bunch of money, and I just spoke to them not at all to the quality of the content. Like, maybe they had good quality content. If you follow the research, just hands down statistically, no matter what best content in the world,
Mhm.
there is just a marked decrease in intelligence and focus and
Mhm.
everything by just having the dang thing in the room, not
Right.
even using it. You turn it off and leave it in the room, and you
Mhm.
see standardized test scores go down in studies in the educational department.
Yes.
That's how seriously broken the mechanism of digital content is. And I think if you look back at COVID,
Mhm.
talk about our anxiety, our age. Look at our kids. That is statistical, just
Mhm.
off the charts, highest suicide rates, everything. And that
Mhm.
ties to digital education. That's it.
Yeah.
Digital education doesn't work.
Oh,
Occasionally
Chris.
here and there to
Yeah.
supplement, but it's not that it's a lie.
Uh-huh. I'm so glad you brought up schools because I literally wrote school as my next question because, well, the fact that they don't have iPads in K through third already is really surprising because all schools that I am aware of do, even in TK. So they're 4-year-olds on devices in class. I have a lot of thoughts about that, but that is the way a lot of schools are moving. Even still, there's a new program called 2hourlearning .com is the website. They have Alpha Schools. It's a new approach where they do all of their academics in 2 hours in the morning, in all led by an AI guide. So that it's all on the device. You have humans, around if you have a question, but you're always directed back towards the device. I interviewed the founder recently, and she said, what you will never see is a human being teaching a child math because all those academics are done on that device. And then in the afternoon, they spend the next few hours doing like life skills workshops. So real life skills with human guides, some of it virtual, depending on what it is. But man, when I asked her about screen time, and there's 4-year-olds 2 hours a day on these iPads. And she's like, her whole thing was, well, not all screen time is created equal, that if it's educational and it's personalized to them and it's so engaging, then it can be okay. And I'm glad. I like how you said it. Like, it doesn't matter what it is on there, or even if they're using it, even if it's in the room, it has
Yeah.
that effect on them.
Yeah, I think that it's very convenient. Of course, you don't have to hire a teacher, just pay for an AI. I mean, very
Yeah.
convenient, especially for the education system. I mean,
Hmm.
and I'm talking at the state level with Texas, that's the level I'm talking about. They're trying to meet state demands, even computerized testing. So there's definitely uh, uh, people don't understand it, but I will say, if you look at the tip of the spear on the guys in education that are smart and know what's going on,
Hmm.
they are cutting this entirely out of their system. Harvard
Hmm.
passed a regulation that only handwritten notes are allowed during their lectures. No
Okay.
computers, no sound recording devices, because they did the research and they understand that the
Hmm.
way that you learn content is by transcribing it by hand. It's more effective no matter what. So they have a no screens policy. I talked to the president of
Hmm.
Cambridge High School. This is the best university in the world, their high school, aka another pinnacle educational institution. And he was talking about using Wisephone as a policy for their students 24/7. They have to use Wisephones, and during the classroom hours, nothing, no screens. The
Okay.
whole school, screen-free school. And that's where
Okay.
education is headed for the people that have their head on their shoulders. So,
Right. Right. That's what I'm saying. And I get so surprised when I hear about people that are sending their kids, or schools that are being more and more schools, and they're getting state funding for charters as
yeah.
like this AI program. And so, what are you hearing from adults who switched from like an iPhone to a Wise phone? What are their reactions?
Yeah, I can chart out the journey that you're about to go on.
I was one of my questions is what tips, like what can you tell me about my
Yeah.
transition?
So the way we build really good product is by understanding the user journey and by responding and reacting to the things that people most want and need, or
Hmm.
I would say need more than want.
Sure.
Kind of care
Yeah.
what you want, but there are boundaries.
Yeah.
So the journey that we have, like I said, I could chart this out. It's like you get it, and there's this intimidation factor of like,
Hmm.
holy crap, I don't want to do this. And then you just finally flip it on, put your SIM card in, change your number, what import context. You do that onboarding thing. And then the first 14 days, it gets progressively harder. And there's
Okay.
the pit of despair at 14 days in of like, holy smokes. And you're kind of, because you have to figure out new life systems. It's like, if all of a sudden I wanted to go gluten free, like I got to figure out how to go gluten free and look up, it's inconvenient. I have to figure out gluten free recipes and which restaurants. It's like a whole new world of system design for yourself that you're submitting yourself to. And
Hmm.
then you climb out of the pit of despair as you figure out a couple things in this little life hack and that, and everyone's a little bit different. Like I mentioned my laptop system, different people had different systems, and it's so fun
Mhm.
hearing what they are for people.
Mhm.
But then literally 30 days, you arrive, and after 30 days, universally, everyone has feelings of peace and freedom. That's the
Mm.
best way to describe it. And yes, there are still some inconveniences. There are some new habits and systems and processes to figure out, but
Mhm.
you've accomplished another level in life, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I
You,
can
like,
almost guarantee
transcended. You, like,
yeah, I can
transcended.
almost guarantee that. Like, if I can tell you this, like, I don't know if it's gonna be the long-term solution for you or not, but I can
Mhm.
guarantee you in 30 days, you are gonna feel feelings of peace and freedom, and maybe you wanna subject yourself back to the world of chaos and hyperconnection,
Mhm.
but that is one thing I can promise you, so
Okay. I'm so excited, and I'm excited to be documenting it, and sharing with parents because I think, like, it can just feel very overwhelming, like, that's not realistic for me, right? Just because of the excuses everyone gives, like, I need access to my email at all times, but I'm excited for that journey. I heard about the Wisephone through, Claire Morel, and I think you've spoken with Claire, and she tested the Light phone out actually for a year and a half, which is, like, a way more basic phone, and then switched to the Wisephone because the Light phone was difficult to
I
I mean,
didn't
it
know
has
she switched, that's
no
awesome.
camera. Yeah, so she's been doing the Wisephone for maybe 6 months or so, and been really like, loves it, loves it. Yeah, so we had a whole interview about her journey, and so I'll share that with you afterward.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Any other tips for me regarding switching or any other tips for parents who are interested in kind of a healthier journey with their device?
I would say have courage. If you can trust what I said, that feelings of peace and freedom. Here's what we're about. It's about healthy technology. We are
Mhm.
literally redefining what is good for us. And we are kind of, in a sense, guiding you in that. We're leading you in that. And you may not fully even understand the details because, like I said, it comes down to 1,000 design decisions, like micro
Mhm.
design decisions that you may or may not be aware of in the nuance of your smartphone, in the
Yeah.
bowels of your smartphone is a better way to say it. And so we just come at it from a different approach. So if you trust us, I think you'll be rewarded. It will be worth it after 30
Yeah.
days, and it's something that can spread to the rest of your family. Just completely redefine how you live life and how you connect with folks.
Mhm.
So
The impact is going to be, I think, bigger than as far as even from day one. Like, the amount of times I'm gonna reach for my phone and realize that I can't do, like, what I in the back of my mind was wanting
yeah,
to do, and that, like, moving through that feeling, and then also the idea of just, like, needing to be productive at all times. That's what Claire and I talked about, especially as moms. Like, we are constantly, like, triple tasking, like,
uh-huh.
so, you can't can truly not, like, I don't know if there's Amazon on there or certain things, but, like, not Amazon. Okay, so, like, I can't place an order while I'm waiting for my kid to pick them up from school, you know? So
Yeah.
it's those things are gonna still come to your mind, but, like, get them on a task list and do it when you sit down, when you can actually pay attention to it, right?
Yep, and I've had to adjust myself. I mean, I have 7 screens when I sit down at my computer. It's kinda ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh,
But, yeah, I have
probably
a
more.
paper I have a paper-based system that I
Mhm.
started used to have fancy cards, and then I switched to note cards, and I literally have hundreds of note cards I run my
Okay.
life off of. And
Yeah.
I just sit down, and I have focused time, and I work on this card until it's done, and then the next one, and, yeah, so
Okay, amazing. Okay, so where can listeners find out more about the Wise Phone and your work and connect with your team?
yeah, wisephone.com, has all the information you need. There you buy a device, and then there's a monthly subscription. You can either pay just for the software only, or there's software and a carrier plan. That's
Okay.
what a lot of people use. Probably 75% of our users, they switch to our carrier plan. But yeah, reach out to us on wisephone.com. We have an awesome customer service team. We have the best customer service ratings of any device in the world. It's like 99.97%
Wow.
customer
Okay.
satisfaction rate.
That's
And
huge.
yeah, we
Huge.
and especially in startup world, I'm really proud of that because honestly, there's some other people that made kids phones and other stuff like that in our space over the last 5 years. I've journeyed side by side with them. We know each other. We've
Mhm.
copied each other's content. Like, I've had a lot of people take my ideas. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we are absolutely best in class, and I'm very proud of that. So,
Amazing.
for that
Question
experience.
about the carrier plans. Like, I have AT&T. So what is there a benefit to going with the Wise Phone carrier plan, or Is it just whatever you
Just some
prefer?
cost savings, possibly. Like, our plan's
Mm,
basically bundled with the software subscription are a little less
okay.
expensive than if you were to just keep your carrier, but some people don't
Okay.
care as much, so
Okay.
we're pretty much neutral to whether you use our
Mhm.
carrier or not. There's not much of an experience difference.
Mhm.
Onboarding, you have to port your number to our carrier. That
Yeah.
could take a little bit of time, so that's the
Okay.
one difference, but
Okay. So it's switching the SIM card over and then
yes.
porting. Oh, so if we go with your carrier, it's porting the
Yeah,
number.
if you keep
Okay.
your carrier, you put your SIM card in, you're good to go.
Good to go.
Off to the
Okay.
races,
That's
and
my
then
plan for now.
yeah, that's great. Do
Okay.
that for 30 days
Okay.
and yeah, just you might have to get a SIM card. Some iPhones have eSIM, so you might have to call your carrier to get a SIM.
Oh, good question. I do have
Little
your
tiny
little tool.
details, but they
I
matter.
have the tool, so I'm gonna go poke it into my iPhone, see if there's
Got
anything
it.
in there. Okay. Thank you so much for creating this. I think that parents who are really worried about our kids' time on their devices and what they're accessing and setting that example for them, like this is such a cool opportunity to show them a healthier way and a way that makes us feel better and also shows them such a good example. Because one day soon they're going to be off on their own at 18 doing their own thing. And how do we want them to interact with their devices as adults? Like we can show them that.
Yep.
And so thank you for giving us an option and a solution for this.
Yeah, I'm excited, about the relational transformation we've had. It started with, hey, our foster daughters, our relationship with them got better after this piece of tech got invited into our lives.
Hmm.
And whether it's you personally, your relationship with God, your relationship with your husband or wife, or your kids, that's the essence of this. That's what matters to us at the end of the day. So
Hmm.
I hope that this can help more people in that
Yeah,
particular field. So,
for sure. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your time. We'll be in touch soon.